course, website design and development. For this module, this is the fourth module, which implies that this is the fourth video that I'll be having for this course. The topic that I'll be looking at in this module is domain registration and verified web hosting. We'll be taking us through the process of proper domain registration, and the different. We also look at verified web hosting, as you get verified while using web hosting. Then we also look at the different types of web hosting, the hosting that we have. So in this module can be said to be the infrastructure foundation of every website, which is very essential when we are talking about website design and development. So now we have the contents of the module. What are those things that we are going to learn in this module? And one of them is choosing and registering a domain name. How can we choose and register a domain name? We'll take us through that step. Then afterwards, we'll move on to types of web hosting. We'll be looking at different types of web hosting that we have. We have the likes of shared VPS, dedicated cloud, and all. After that, we'll also look at the verified web hosting providers, which could be international, that is the international and Nigerian one. And we'll also move on to the connecting domain to hosting and DNS configuration. And lastly, in this module, learners will definitely study the website security, like backups, firewalls, and SSL. So we have the introduction to this module. Is that a beautifully designed website does not actually exist on the internet until two critical decisions are made. One is domain. Let's look at domain name now. That has to do with the addresses. The address, for instance, talking about the address, we have example like www.socialthing.com, www.nigerloaded.com, www.thisandthat.com. I believe you know what we are trying to explain here. Then we also have web hosting, which should be said to be the home where website files are stored. That's like the home where website files are stored. That's web hosting. Then security is there to protect the home from attack. So without a domain, no address; without hosting, no home; without security, the website becomes vulnerable. So that's just what we are trying to express. We are trying to analyze or explain to us in this module. Domain is very essential when we are talking about if you want to create an address. So without a domain, there is no address. Without hosting, there is no home. And without security, the website is vulnerable, that is, it is weak. So these infrastructure decisions affect branding, SEO performance, and user trust and all. So let's look at what is a domain name and how to choose one. What do we refer to as domain name, and how can we choose a proper domain name? So a domain name is a human readable address. That is what every literate person can easily read. So it is the readable address of a website. For instance, just like we have mentioned, www.google.com, www.safari.com, www.nigerloaded.com, Nigerloaded, and all. These are domain names. They are readable address, and whereby the DNS translates into an IP address. So part of a domain name, that's right to left, we have top level domain, that's the TLD, where we have the .com, .org, .ng, .edu. So and the second level domain, SLD, it has to do with your unique name. For instance, we have Google and all. We have the subdomain, which is the third one, where we have the www. the mail and blog. So these are the subdomain examples of subdomain. Now choosing an effective domain criteria. We have the brevity, we have the memorability, the relevance, and all. So now the brevity has to do with, it must be shorter. The shorter is better. It must be the shorter the better, and you must avoid hyphens. Memorability, it must be easy to spell and say aloud. You can't go with something that is ambiguous for people to just remember. You understand? Then relevance, it must reflect the brand or purpose of the brand or purpose. Now TLD section, we have .com for global. So everything that has to do with internationally, globally, any website that we use .com for global, .ng for Nigerian focus, website that is created for Nigerian focus, .org for non-profits. I think we have .edu for academic stuff too. So now we also have trademark check, which is to avoid legal issues. A good domain builds brand recognition and trust for years. So domain is just like the address to get to you, to get to your brand, to get to your site, and all. It's just the address. Just as you see it as someone that you need some you are expecting a visitor in your house, your physical house. The person cannot get to your house without your address. So it is the visitor that you give your address that will be able to have access to your house. This is just what we can easily bring it to. So now let's move on to domain registration process. How can we register a domain? They are registered. Domains are actually registered through accredited registrars like ICANN for global TLD, SNIRA for NG. So the steps to register them, we have one of them. The first one is to search availability using registrars checker. So when we are done with that, the second step is to select the domain and TLD. Select your domain, make sure that it is aligning with your brand. Then the third one is to provide registrant contact information. Then after that, you pay the fee. You pay the necessary fee. Where we have the .com is mostly in US dollars, probably 10 to 15 years, 15 per year. The NG in Naira, 5,000 to 15,000 per year. So US dollar in 10 to 15 years. Then the NG in Naira, 5,000 to 15,000 per year. So, and then the fifth one is you optionally activate WHOIS privacy protection, which hides your personal info from public lookups. International registrars, we have GoDaddy, we have Namecheap, Google Domains, Nigerian NERA, that is NERA accredited. We have the Google Hosts, Web4 Africa, Rack Center, WHOIS privacy protects against spam and unwanted contacts. Now let's move on to types of web hosting. Now we have an overview of the types of web hosting. Actually, web hosting provides the server where websites files are stored and made accessible 24/7 non-stop. Now the four major categories from simplest to most powerful. We have the shared hosting, we have the VPS hosting, we have the dedicated server, we have the cloud hosting. So these are the four major categories of web hosting. Now the shared hosting has to do with multiple sites. This one, multiple sites, they share one server's resources. It is cheapest and is mostly used by beginners. The VPS hosting is a virtual private server with dedicated resources for growing sites. This one is dedicated for growing sites. Now the dedicated server also, it is entire physical server for one client maximum performance. While the cloud hosting is network of virtual servers. It is scalable, pay as you go, and for variable traffic. Now the right choice affects performance, reliability, security, and cost. If you want to, it depends on what you the choice that you want to go for. Now let's move on to the different types of web hosting that we have. We have the shared and VPS hosting. Now shared hosting is always in US dollar 3 to 10 months. So many websites share CPU, they share storage bandwidth, and it is best for new websites, personal blogs, small business sites, low traffic and all. The limitation to this shared hosting is that it has bad neighbor effects, bad one-side traffic spike, and slow others. It can definitely affect others when there is one-side traffic spike. Now VPS on the other hand, which simply means virtual private server. VPS hosting, this one range is in US dollar 20 to 400 months actually. Now it has to do with virtualization. Virtualization creates isolated virtual servers with dedicated resources, no bad neighbor effects. Resources are yours alone, meant for you alone. They are not sharing this, just like the opposite of shared. Now full root access for custom configurations, and it is best for growing websites, best for e-commerce stores. Developers needing control. Where we have that VPS is the logical upgrade when your site outgoes shared hosting. That is just as if you have taken your site have outgrown or upgraded, progress from this from shared hosting. Now the VPS is the logical upgrade of that. Now dedicated server and cloud hosting. Now let's look at dedicated server. Dedicated server hosting, we have about $100 for 500 plus months. It is exclusively use it is exclusive use of an entire physical server or resources to definitely one client alone, and it measures the maximum performance, the security, isolation, full configuration freedom, and it is best for high traffic sites. A site that is known to be very busy, high traffic sites, large e-commerce, sensitive data for like banking, healthcare, and all. And it also requires significant technical expertise. Now, cloud hosting, that's pay as you go. This is another type of hosting that we have. So this one is websites hosted on a network of interconnected virtual servers. It is exceptional scalability by its add resources on demand. Auto scaling prevent crashes. It is high availability, no single point of failure, and it is best for scalable apps, SaaS products, variable or rapidly growing traffic. And major providers of this cloud hosting is AWS, Google Cloud, Microsoft, and all. Now let's move on to verified hosting providers international. We're looking at in the international one and the regional. Let's put it that with the regional and the international. Now talking about international verified hosting providers. Now, criteria to evaluate any use. Below are the criteria to evaluate any use. One is uptime guarantee up to 99.9% or higher than 99.9%. Then it was definitely have 24/7 customer support. Test response time before buying. Security features is there, server location, scalability, transparent pricing. That is, you watch for low intro prices that spike at renewal. So, and it is mainly recommended international. It's recommended international providers. We have Bluehost, which is officially recommended by WordPress.org. We have SiteGround, that is excellent support, that give excellent support. Google Cloud Infrastructure, advanced security. Cloudways is managed is like a managed cloud hosting. Where we have examples of that, we have the AWS, Google Cloud, DigitalOcean, and all. So now let's move on to the other part, which is the verified hosting providers. Now the regional part, we've talked about the international part. Now we have the Nigerian or African. That is why I actually refer to it as region, the regional one. Now for website primarily serving Nigeria and West African audiences, so local providers offer advantages. Naira pricing, local payment options, local support in compatible time zones, and reduced latency. Recommended for Nigerian or African providers. We have Google Host, which is the Nigerian leading host, Web for Africa, with the hosting across multiple African countries. Note African countries this time. The data centers in South Africa and Ghana. We also have Rack Center, Nigeria's first tier 3 data center enterprise. We also have the TrueHost Nigeria, which is growing provider, affordable cloud and shared hosting. Local hosting can significantly improve page load times for Nigerian users, as you know. Now, connecting domain to hosting, DNS basics. How can we connect domain? We've talked about domain and hosting now. Connecting domain to hosting. Domain to hosting, the basics, DNS basics. The key concept is that a domain and hosting are separate services. We should not mix it up together. Your domain can be registered with one company and hosted with another. DNS, which means domain name system, translates human readable domain names into machine readable IP address. So how DNS resolution works? How does this domain name resolution system works? One is browser queries a DNS resolver, the IASP or Google, for instance. Second is that the resolver queries the authoritative name server for the domain. Third one is that the name, another means that by which DNS resolutes how DNS resolution works is that its name server returns the IP address. Browser connects to the web server at the IP address. Common DNS record types that we have the A record, AAA record. A record maps domain to IP for address, which is mostly fundamental. The AAA record, it maps domain to IPv6 address. We have the CNAME record, the MX record, the TXT record, the NX record. NS record specifies authoritative name servers. So understanding this record is very essential for professional website management. So we must try to know it and study it very well. Now, step-by-step domain connection process. We said we'll be discussing the step, also discussing how we can go about step by step, how we can go about the domain connection process. We have step 1, step 2, step 3. Step 1 is to obtain your hosting provider's name server addresses or server IP address from their control panel. And the second step is to log into your domain registrar's control panel and go to DNS management for your domain. And the third step is to choose your method. And this method, we have different methods. Let's take it one after. We have method A, which is the simplest. Delegate DNS to host. You update your NS record to point to your hosting provider's name servers. And the second method, that's method B, you manage DNS at registrar. That is, add an A record pointing domain to the hosting server's IP. Add a CNAME record pointing www to the root domain. That's how you can actually choose your method. Now, step 4, the fourth step is to save changes. When you are done saving it, then you move on to wait for DNS propagation. That's like 3 minutes to 48 hours or so. So during propagation, some users see old servers, others see new one. And the sixth step is to verify you verify with what mydns.net or dnschecker.org. You plan ahead. DNS changes are not instances. Now, website security, where we'll be looking at SSL, backups, firewalls. SSL certificates, it encrypts login credentials, payments, form data, and it is there to prevent man-in-the-middle attacks. Padlock icon plus HTTPS in browsers. Without SSL browsers SSL browser is not secure. So let's encrypt others' free DF certificates. And backups are your insurance policy, in the sense that they test your restoration periodically. 3-to-1 rule, that is the 3 copies, 2 storage media types, and 1 offsite. And make sure you use automated tools, hosting provider backups, Updraft Plus, other product, that is the WordPress. Let's look at web application firewall now. That's the WAF. It filters malicious traffic at the application layer, protects against SQL injection, XSS, DDoS, boost force attacks. Leading solution, we have the Cloudflare WAF, security mode security. Security in web design is not optional. It is a professional and ethical obligation that must be followed or that must be met. So now, in conclusion, we've been able to look at different domain names by making sure that we choose wisely, make sure that we looked at behaviorability, memorability when trying to choose domain names, appropriate TLD, and make sure to register through accredited registrars that we have mentioned in this course. We also look at web hosting, where we look at shared hosting, the beginners, the VPS, the one that the going one for the going, then the dedicated, which has to do with high traffic and mostly used, and the cloud, which is scalable, match hosting to project needs. We also look at verified providers. You evaluate your uptime, support, security, location, scalability, consider Nigerian rules for local audiences. We also looked at the DNS connection, which implies us to understand record types, where we have the A, CNAME, MX, etc., and follow step-by-step process, allow propagation time, security, SSL, automated backups, the 3-2-1 rule, we should not forget about that, and WAF are the 3 pillars of basic website security. Now, a basic website on an unreliable host with no SSL and no backup is a professional failure. These infrastructure decisions are foundational that need to be made. Thank you. This will be the end for this module, but we have questions and discussion that we need to at the end of this module. And this reflection questions, we have about 5 of them on the screen. One is that, what are the most important criteria for choosing a domain name for a Nigerian business? You should know that by now. When would you choose VPS over shared hosting and cloud over VPS? Why is who is privacy protection important, and what is the difference between an A record and a CNAME record? And then the last